Good morning, Malacañang press corps and guest. Happy Monday briefing with Presidential Spokesperson Harry Roque. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Pilipinas, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the Malacañang Press Corps. Let me begin by saying that the President regrets that he will be unable to attend the ASEAN-Australia Summit this month. Developments at home continue to require the President's presence in the Philippines, as in fact, one affair that he has to attend is the PMA graduation, and to the President, attending the PMA graduation is an opportunity to have a dialogue with the younger elements of the military, particularly on the special designation will help ensure that the Philippines continues to be engaged with ASEAN and Australia in advancing shared interests in the region and moving forward the common agenda for greater security, stability, and inclusive and sustainable development in the region. Good news, the Philippines will now be a party to the Budapest Convention on Cybercrime along with 56 other countries. President Rodrigo Roa Duterte signed the instrument of accession for the Budapest Convention last December 2016, to which the Senate concurred last February. With the landmark signing of this convention, the Philippines can now squarely address the issues brought about by cybercrime at both the domestic and international levels, including its facilitation, investigation, and prosecution. We are pleased to announce that the Department of Science and Technology will finance the construction of a 76 million hybrid trimaran cargo vessel. According to the DOST, the hybrid cargo vessel is expected to improve the maritime industry in the Philippines with its modern design and environment-friendly features that can harness energy from the ocean waves. Steel will be used in building the vessel in order to guarantee higher structure efficiency and better wave resistance. In addition, the Aklan State University will implement the project in partnership with the Maritime Industry Authority and Metallica Shipyard. Marina will ensure the compliance of the vessel with international safety and emission standards, while Metallica Shipyard will provide the design and specifications of the vessel. The hybrid cargo vessel is projected to be completed by 2020, which can accommodate 100 passengers, 4 vans, and 15 motorcycles. We're furthermore pleased to announce that the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, through its Z benefit, has now a comprehensive social health insurance coverage to address mobility impairment among Filipino children below 18 years of age who are affected by musculoskeletal and neuromuscular disorders. Some of the grants comprising the Z benefit include the mobility impairment requiring assistance devices from upper and lower extreme prosthesis, lower extremity orthosis, and special spinal bracing with a range from 12,730 pesos to 163,540 pesos. We thank the European Union likewise for offering 3.8 million euros aid to fund the drug rehabilitation centers in the country. The President, as we all know, is amenable to accepting any aid, but without any unilateral conditions. He will reject, as he did in previous occasions, offer of assistance with any condition that would interfere with our domestic policies. The President will not compromise the nation's dignity over any amount of foreign aid. That being said, the EU's desire to support our drug rehabilitation centers runs parallel with the Duterte administration's holistic approach to the drug problem by treating it not just as a national security issue but a public health concern as well, including rehabilitation and reintegration of drug dependents. Certainly, their assistance without conditionalities will be channeled to the Department of Health and will be a big boost to our drug rehabilitation program. I have a PowerPoint presentation, and this is to...
Walang audio yung first part yung sauce Australia. Can we repeat that first part?
Walang audio? Okay.
PMA pala. Yeah. EU PMA.
Ha?
Yung Australia pala, sorry.
Tanungin nyo na lang ako uli. Hindi, sige na nga. Basta, ulitin ko na naman, nakakaya naman to.
For documentation.
Sige. Australia ASEAN Summit. The President regrets that he will be unable to attend the ASEAN Australia Summit this month. Developments at home continue to require the President's presence in the Philippines. One occasion that the Philippines will be attending will be the graduation at the Philippine Military Academy, since he considers this graduation as an opportunity to dialogue with younger military officers, particularly on the manner by which the Philippine government and the military will dwell with or will deal with the problem of modern day terrorism. No? The President, however, considers the summit very important and has designated Secretary of Foreign Affairs Alan Peter Cayetano as his special personal representative. This special designation will help ensure that the Philippines continues to be engaged with ASEAN and Australia in advancing shared interests in the region and moving forward the common agenda for greater security, stability, and inclusive and sustainable development in the region. Okay. I have a PowerPoint presentation. Is the PowerPoint presentation ready? Well, this PowerPoint exploration gives you some examples of joint exploration agreements which are ongoing in different EEZs. No? First of which, there is an ongoing, believe it or not, joint exploration being conducted by Vietnam and its arch rival China. This is a joint exploration of blocks in South China Sea by ONGC India and Petro Vietnam. There is also one joint exploration of the Beibu Gulf conducted by CNOOC, a Chinese company, and Petro Vietnam. Okay. First is Vietnam. There's at least two between India and Petro Vietnam, between CNOOC, which is a Chinese-owned state corporation. It's and Petro Vietnam. There's one between Iceland and Norway, license for joint exploration for oil and gas in Reri region, which also CNOOC is involved in, including the national oil companies of both Iceland and Norway. There is a joint exploration agreement entered into by Kenya, and this is, again, CNOOC and the Kenyan government. Even New Zealand has a joint exploration with the Chinese oil company CNOOC and Shell Petroleum New Zealand, as well as Papua New Guinea, joint venture agreement for shale oil and gas in Gulf of Papua by PNG, LNG, and ExxonMobil. Now, there are also other joint development management or exploration agreements, not necessarily involving CNOOC, but two of which also involve CNOOC. Indonesia, 2008, Joint Exploration, Development, and Operation Agreement, East Java by Husky Canada, Madura, and CNOOC. Malaysia, Unitization Framework Agreements to jointly develop 4 oil fields between Petronas and Petroleum Brunei, as well as Brunei. There's a joint venture agreement on oil field services by Brunei by CNOOC, the Chinese company, and Petroleum Brunei. All these joint exploration agreements means that if ever we enter into a joint exploration and development agreement, it wouldn't be the first in the world. As in fact, CNOOC already has existing joint exploration agreements even with Vietnam. No? And in fact, we could look to the Vietnamese-Chinese Treaty on Joint Exploration and Development as a model for possible relationship between the Philippines and China. Also, I understand that this is in reply to a question made by Pia Ranada that Justice Carpio disputes that Labugal is applicable to a joint exploration in the EEZ. Well, my response is I have a digest of the case decision. You can read also the original of the case decision. The decision is correct, is about mining in land territory. But you see, even if it is mining in land territory, the decision said you could allow foreigners to engage in exploration and exploitation of mineral resources, even in areas subject to complete sovereignty. And that is the decision of the court. How much more in an area where there is only sovereign rights? So I would say that if you can conduct mining in national territory, including land territory, more so will there be a legal basis if the state allows it, no? Because this is an aspect of sovereignty. It is for the state to determine if it wants to share what should otherwise be exclusive. So if the ruling applies to land territory, I don't think there's any reason for it not to be applicable in an area where there is only sovereign rights. Okay? Now, I will ask my office to give you copies of this digest, but let me read from the decision. This is the rationale of the court in the case of Labugal versus Ramos, no? Given the inadequacy of Filipino capital and technology in large-scale mining activities, the state may secure the help of foreign companies in all relevant matters, especially financial and technical assistance, provided that the state maintains its full right of control. The key is that the state must exercise full control and supervision over the exploration, development, and utilization of natural resources. However, the court was careful to state that full control and supervision cannot be taken literally to mean that the state controls and supervises everything down to the minutest detail and makes all required actions. Government need not micromanage mining operations and day-to-day affairs of the enterprise to be considered as exercising full control and supervision. Okay? The court went on to opine that the Constitution should be read in broad, life-giving strokes. It should not be used to strangulate economic growth or to serve narrow parochial interests. So the voting record is 10-4 with 1 abstain. In favor was the ponente, Chief Justice Panganiban, Davide, Sandoval Gutierrez, Ostre Martinez, Garcia, Puno, Kisumbing, Corona, Tinga, Chico Nazario. Dissenting were, of course, Justice Carpio Morales, Calleja Sr., and Iñárez Santiago. Again, I'd like to reiterate the views of Justice Carpio was the minority view. He voted and submitted a dissenting opinion to the majority opinion in Labugal, the voting pattern of which was overwhelmingly in favor of allowing foreign corporations to participate in exploration and development of natural resources. 10-4, 10 votes in favor, 4 against. That should be crystal clear. Questions?
May follow-up question about joint exploration? Joseph Morong, follow-up.
Sir, dun po sa examples na binigay nyo, those are explorations. How many of those are in the EEZs?
All
All,
are in the
okay.
EEZ.
And in your examples, how many are those that are between countries that are with contesting claims?
It will be with Vietnam, Malaysia, and Brunei. Nasa ba yung PowerPoint na yun? Yan. Yan. Yes. Vietnam, and then there's also Malaysia, but Malaysia doesn't involve CNOC, but Brunei does.
So Vietnam, Brunei, with CNOC, right?
Yes.
And then under these agreements, the CNOC is contracted by any country? Say for example, Vietnam or Brunei?
What happens is first there must be a bilateral treaty between the states that would enable its nationals to engage in joint exploration. Once that treaty is signed, then the service contracts are awarded in favor of corporations of the contracting states. So that's why here it's between CNOOC and other national-owned gas corporations such as Petro-Vietnam. No?
All right. So, ang sinasabi kasi sir nila, Professor Batong Bakal, is that the reason why you need a corporation to do the exploration is that they can be subsumed, no? Or they can be prevailed upon by the state's laws, right?
I'm not disputing that, but they're wrong in saying it's not allowed under our Constitution. And they're also wrong in saying that you're compromising sovereignty. Our point being, it's being done. You know, this is just a few examples. Earlier, I was a bit upset because I wanted to tell my staff, give me as many examples as you can, because we now have many joint explorations involving what is known as straddling resources. What are these straddling resources? Well, under the ground, when you have oil deposits in the Middle East, it's not as if you can specify the metes and bounds of the boundary of adjacent states that own in common oil reserves. No? So under those circumstances, they have to enter into a joint exploration and joint development agreement, no, between the states. So there's actually so many of these kinds of agreements now. It's actually a common accepted practice for sovereign states to enter into these treaties, allowing joint development and allowing different corporations to enter into service contracts. No?
But another point of that they're making is that this will this will open the floodgates to China exploring other areas of the country, including those that may be exclusively ours with
Yes.
regard to sovereign rights and sovereignty.
But that's the decision of the Supreme Court. What can we do? 10-4. Justice Carpio was only one of the four. Yes. You know, the original decision of Labugal was foreign companies cannot participate except through FTAAs. On reconsideration, the court came up with the majority opinion saying, no, and as I said, you cannot be myopic about it. You cannot strangulate economic development because of myopic views. No? So that's the majority opinion. If that happens, so be it. It's been decided by the Philippine Supreme Court.
Questions? Follow-up? Laila Salaveria?
Sir, in this joint explorations, what are the standing of the two countries? Do they have equal standing, or parang will there be sort of an employer-employee relation?
Of course not. When you agree on joint development, you enter into a treaty which under international law is defined as a written contract between two states governed by international law. So they contract as sovereign equals. They observe the principle of equality under international law.
Kasi sir, one of the areas you mentioned was Service Contract 57, which is not under dispute.
It's not under dispute. That's why Labugal applies. We can allow foreign corporations to explore and exploit if we want to.
So, meaning we will have equal standing with China?
No, they
over-
will have to comply with Labugal. As far as 57 is concerned, they will comply with the decision in Labugal.
Contracting.
So, parang we just contracted their services, ganun po ba yun?
Dapat.
No, well, they can participate in exploration and exploitation provided, as the decision says, we have ultimate control over the exploration and the development.
Sir, how do we manifest this full right and control? You mentioned it doesn't necessarily mean micromanaging, so how do we intend to?
Maybe you should read the decision. It's a rather lengthy decision. No? But among others, you make sure that all our mining laws are complied with. No? You make sure that the share which pertains to the state or revenues otherwise earned from natural resources will be paid to the state, no? Because they are, they are payables, no, revenues in the same way that Malampaya has to pay for, the share of the national government as far as all revenues earned from the oil fields are concerned, no. So and of course you have DNR ultimately through the mining bureau ultimately having control and supervision about the everyday activities of the joint exploration or the development involving foreign companies.
Sir, last na, yung sharing, will it be 50-50?
Let me just read this. Control, as utilized in Section 2 of Article 12, must be taken to mean a degree of control sufficient to enable the state to direct, restrain, regulate, and govern the affairs of the extractive enterprises. Control by the state may be on a macro level through the establishment of policies, guidelines, regulations, industry standards, and similar measures. Such a degree of control would be compatible with permitting the foreign contractor sufficient and reasonable management of authority over the enterprise it has invested in to ensure efficient and profitable operation. That squarely answers your question. It's in the decision itself.
Thank you.
Sige, Joseph.
Sir, having said that, okay, fine. Look, I think the question is CNOC with regard to 57 or even maybe 72, 72, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Will the CNOC be subject to our laws when they do explore and exploit our resources?
They will absolutely be subject to Philippine law if it is 57.
Okay.
As to 72, the agreement on joint exploration will be governed by international law. because there has to be a treaty to be signed between the Philippines and China first on the joint exploration before it can be implemented by juridical entities of the contracting states.
All right. With regard to 57, assuming we find 100, we find oil or gas there, who dictates the terms
It
of
will have to be
sharing?
the mining code. The
Our
domestic
mining
law
code.
of the Philippines will prevail on 57.
So in that sense, China is under our control.
Yes,
We gave them the permission.
They're
right?
only a foreign entity engaged in exploration and development.
It
But they
can-
have to do it under Philippine laws.
It cannot be the same with 72 because both
No,
are.
in 72 you have to thresh out these details because it will have to be agreed upon.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, other issue, Vic Saminta.
Now again, that's on the assumption that 72 is contested territory, no? Of course, our position is it's part of our exclusive economic zone. China claims the same way, and that's why if we enter into an agreement, we'll have to spell out the respective rights and obligations of the parties by way of a compromise, no? No, we're not. In fact, we have no agreement as of yet. We have no treaty on joint exploration as of yet, but we can look to the treaty between Vietnam and China as a model.
Vic Saminta.
Secretary, magandang hapon po.
Yes, magandang hapon po.
Kanina po nag-file na po ng co-warranto petition sa Supreme Court si Solicitor General Jose Calida. Ano po ang take ng palasyo dito?
Well, we have consistently taken the view that we leave it to Congress to remove the Chief Justice if there are grounds to do so. Now that a petition has been filed in the court, I think there are two petitions now pending in court. We leave it to the Supreme Court to resolve these two separate petitions. However, we stand by our constitutional duty that we will enforce the decision of the Supreme Court, whatever it may be.
So as a lawyer, ano ang tingin po ninyo? Kasi may mga nagsasabi na yun lang impeachment ang pwedeng mag-alis sa sitting Chief Justice.
Well, let's just say this is unprecedented. While the normal rule is that impeachable officers can only be removed through impeachment, the petitioners, who I believe are fully cognizant of this doctrine, probably feel that under the circumstance, the general rule should not be applicable. No? So let's wait for the decision of the Supreme Court.
Question?
Thank you, sir.
Follow up, other issue? Pia Gutierrez.
Sir, the term of SEC Chair Teresita Herbosa is set to expire this week. Meron na po bang nakikitang kapalit sa kanya si President Duterte?
Wala pa po, but of course, we have nothing but respect for Chair Herbosa.
Will the President name a replacement kaya later sa cabinet meeting, sir?
I don't think it will be done in today's cabinet meeting, but he will be the appointing authority anyway.
Thank you, sir.
Questions? No more? Laila Salaveria.
Sir, going back to the Supreme Court, how does the palace see this affecting the judiciary, the justice system, the dispensation of justice in the Philippines?
Well, I know that the cases pending in the Chief Justice's office will probably remain unacted upon, no? Because aside from being Chief Justice, she has a caseload. And because she has gone on indefinite leave, I guess we can safely conclude that there will be decisions that will be unwritten because she has gone on indefinite leave. But other than that, as an institution, the court acts as a collegial body. She is first amongst equals, but she only has administrative duties, which Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio can now fulfill in lieu of the Chief Justice. So there should be no major hindrance to the court performing its job.
So you don't have any concern about this affecting the perception of the justice system in the Philippines?
Well, I would say that, on the contrary, it proves that the justice system works when 13 of the magistrates themselves vote that the Chief Justice should go on an indefinite leave. That means the justice system is well and healthy and alive in the Philippines.
But sir,
Probably should be heeded. Should be heeded.
Sir, how does the palace prefer for this matter to be resolved? through a trial or through the co-warranto petition?
As I said, we have no preference either way. We will enforce whatever decision the Supreme Court or the Senate may have as sitting as an impeachment court.
Thank you.
Follow up ba? Follow up? Maricel Halili.
So just one question. You mentioned this before that it will be better for CJ Sereno to resign. Is it still the same, sir, following all the proceedings? Would you rather have CJ Sereno resign so as to save the government for all these proceedings?
Well, I'm sorry to say that since we made that recommendation, it has since been rejected. So we said, henceforth, our position will be, we leave it to Congress to decide. No? The position remains the same. 4 or 5 months ago, we made a suggestion. She rejected. So be it.
Joseph Morong.
Just so I don't mishear you, no? You said for the decision ng 13 justices should be heeded
I believe so.
because
That's a unanimous decision of everyone present in the Supreme Court, that because of the controversies hounding the Chief Justice, she should go on indefinite leave. To me, that is a form of a message, no, which the Chief Justice should heed.
message that what?
I'm not sure, but definitely that her continued stay in office may not be good for the institution.
Okay. What is the palace's or the president's duty? Is it to enforce the decision of the 13 justices or to uphold the Constitution, which says that the only way to remove a Chief Justice is through impeachment?
Well, the president took an oath to uphold the Constitution and the laws of the land.
You do not see the co-warranto petition being granted as violating the constitutional provision that, about impeachment.
That's now within the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, and that's why the president defers to the decision of the Supreme Court.
So when he defers to the decision of the Supreme Court, when they say, I think it's a foregone conclusion, no? If it goes up to the Supreme Court and it has 13, mukhang yun na yun, di ba?
Again, this would be a contumacious act if we speculate on how the Supreme Court will decide. Either way.
Okay.
So let's stop there.
Okay.
Okay, MPC, no more questions? Laila? Ikaw? Oh, sige, okay.
Cabinet meeting, nakauwi na po si Secretary Simato? Will he be making the recommendation after his return from Boracay?
I believe all members of the cabinet will be present unless they have very urgent reasons not to be present this afternoon.
Sir, pag may sinabi,
Of course, I'll be reporting tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Tapos na kasi yung balita, no, by the time we begin the meeting.
Well,
I will talk to the Agriculture Secretary and tell him, please wait for me to make the announcement at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning.
okay. Okay, MPC? Hannah? Last question na tayo kay Hannah?
Sir, good morning. Sir, reaction lang po dun sa ilang mga netizens po. They took a picture po ng isang fan na may mukha ninyo. They're saying that apparently, ginagamit nyo daw yung position ninyo sa pagbiyahe nyo po, sa pag-conduct nyo ng press briefing para po daw dun sa plans ninyo sa 2019 na tumakbo as senator. Is this true, sir?
Well, I
What
think
is
the
your
issue
reaction?
is who paid for the funds. I'll answer that. Deputy Speaker Gwen Garcia. As in fact, all the funds are in Cebu. I want her to send a lot more funds here, no? But it's too expensive. Ang binigay lang niya sa akin fund, hindi niya sinagot yung pagtatransport sa Manila. So I'll make the suggestion, can you also pay for transporting the funds to Manila?
So therefore, you're running.
You're
I do
running,
not
sir.
know. I mean, that was given to me by Gwen Garcia. It's too much of a waste not to distribute it, especially since we first distributed the funds in Cebu. And it was also for an occasion involving a cooperative founded by the mother of Deputy Speaker Gwen Garcia,
But you are not,
Cebu CFI.
sir, you're not using your position, sir, sa pagpunta nyo doon sa
I do
mga-
not think so. What I do know is that the journalists all over the country appear to be very appreciative. In fact, in Tarlac, I was asked a question which for the first time I could not answer. It has not really happened here in Malacañang Press Corps, but it happened to me in Tarlac. That's different. But in Tarlac, I was asked a question that I was like, could not answer and say, I can't answer that. I don't know the answer. I forget now. I said I will research on it, but I will review the transcripts.
Okay,
Thank you,
MPC,
sir.
no more questions? Okay na? Okay, thank you Malacañang Press Corps. Thank you Presidential Spokesperson Harry
Thank you.
Roque.
See you tomorrow.
Back to our main studio sa Radyo Pilipinas and People's Television Network.
I will talk to Secretary.